Hey, it's Phil Stacy, Executive Sports Editor at the Salem News. Welcome to another edition of Bandied About, our Salem News and Gloucester Times sports podcast, alongside, as always, Matt Williams, Assistant Sports Editor at the Salem News, and Nick Giannino, the Sports Editor at the Gloucester Times, in their new location.
That's right.
We didn't mention that
Swing
last
on
time.
by. Gloucester
Yeah,
Crossing.
that's right. It's like a pop-in kind of place, right?
That's right.
Chances of them catching you there are probably slim because you're an active guy out and about, but
That's right. I'll be there maybe once or twice this week, but yeah, you have a better chance catching me at a game.
yeah, there you go. All right, so it is Monday, September 22nd, as we record this. It's the official first day of fall. Although for us, it seems like it's been that way for a while because we're into the season. We're about 3 weeks in now, the fall sports season. Willie, how about you steer the good ship lollipop today?
Let's talk some football.
Okay.
Um, I was just talking to a mutual friend, a coach, and we were saying that there's a lot of scores out there that, to be quite honest, don't make any sense. Swampscott. Well, I'm just going to start with my tree here, and you guys jump in anytime. St. Mary's made Swampscott look really bad week one, and then Gloucester beats up St. Mary's. Gloucester, I thought, struggled to get by Beverly. Beverly reels off two straight wins. I thought, looked kind of bad in their win over Haverhill. Kind of probably should have lost the game, right? But now they play Gloucester really good. Does that mean they would have beat St. Mary's too? Does that mean they're better than Swampscott? I don't know. Salem, is really close to Danvers, only loses by a score. They go out and lose by two or three scores, have a terrible fourth quarter against Greater Lawrence. But then Danvers beat Reading. So does that mean Salem's close to Reading too? I don't know. These scores are all over the place. And I know sometimes it's like a fool's errand to try to compare game to game. I think we get caught doing that in the NFL a lot, and it doesn't make sense. But I look at all of that, and I don't know what's a mirage, what's not a mirage. Fenwick now is going to play Gloucester. St. Mary's has beaten Fenwick, what, two or three out of the last four, something like that. Took them out to the woodshed last Thanksgiving. And, I think we all would have penciled in, well, Fenwick's probably better than Gloucester, right? And we all kind of looked at that Gloucester schedule. I shouldn't say we all, but certainly I think Phil and I both looked at that schedule and said, well, good for them for scheduling Fenwick and St. Mary's, but
Yeah.
those are for the power rankings. Those aren't for wins. And they might go in and win both games now all of a sudden. So, 3 weeks into the football season, I feel very confused by all of this as far as the Northeastern Conference is concerned.
And
What
the
say you?
fact that I think we've all picked if I'm not mistaken, multiple upsets correctly, all of us, right? Is kind of remarkable, I think.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and you forgot in there too, Willie, not forgot, but Essex Tech going up to Newburyport and beating them. Now I know Newburyport's down this year, but Essex Tech had struggled through the first 2 weeks. They go up, put up 28 points, hold off a late rally. They get an onside kick to seal the win. That's a down year for Newburyport or not. That's a good road win against an established Cape Ann League opponent. So that was another one that we didn't really see coming. But
First Cal win, if I'm not mistaken, for the Hawks, right?
Yeah, I read that headline.
Technically, like if I know
Well, they
there's these
beat
crossover
it.
games.
Didn't they beat somebody last year? I mean, let's see. I thought. Well, no, I guess they lost to Ipswich, right? Yeah, Whittier and some of that might be actually.
yeah, because as I
Let's
said, they
let's look
lost
at.
to Hamilton Wenham at Manchester. I want to say that was last year,
Hmm.
and they did lose to Ipswich. So yeah, first Cal win for them.
Was that their last? Was it their first year? I mean, it's definitely their first in the Count Kinney. I mean
Right.
that we can say for certain. I thought they had beaten one of the Baker teams at some point, but maybe not.
No, I
That's
don't
kind of
think so.
wild. Yeah, they
But
beat
getting
Hamilton
back to
Wenham
your point,
and
yeah,
Ipswich
yeah,
in 2023, both of them.
it has been crazy. And it's like I guess what's the high school equivalent of any given Sunday? I mean, who are the Browns beating the Packers yesterday kind of thing. Anything can happen.
Carolina, I'm shutting out
Carolina,
the
what, blowing
Falcons.
out Atlanta, like crazy things happen. Um, but in high school, you feel like it's a little more like you have a read on these things and, who should win kind of thing. But the first few weeks are always about working out kinks and all, or seeing what works or what doesn't, getting new guys more volume offensively. If you have to rotate guys in the line or if you have an established line, what you're looking to do defensively. If you have to switch up formations, if there are major game adjustments at halftime or whatnot. I mean, who saw Floyd White of Beverly catching 4 touchdown passes? He hasn't caught 4 touchdown passes in his career. He goes out and catches 4 touchdown passes Friday night. Who saw Salem being up at Greater Lawrence, and as you alluded to, Willie gave up 4 fourth quarter touchdowns. I mean, that doesn't make sense. They're a good team. I watched them play earlier this year against Kip, and they have a good sized line. They got a power back and Espinal, good quarterback, and Jake Lister. So things sometimes just don't make sense. In the case of Danvers, I look at that as I think they're coached up really well. And I always feel Danvers plays that they punch up, if that makes sense. Like they play a good team. I think it's only the second time they've beaten Reading in what, 5 meetings, I want to say, Willie, but they always give them a good game and they punch up. They play up to the level of competition. And that combined with good coaching, and we keep hearing, you wrote a great story last week on this, that line in Danvers, just the depth that they have, the bulk, the strength, the smarts, and the number of guys they can rotate there. When you put a couple of good backs behind them, like Jack Houston and Zach Fultz, who had a breakout game the other day with 234 yards, smart quarterback and Nate Wise, those things can happen. And they feed off of that momentum. And even a late comeback by Reading didn't seem to fluster Danvers. They held on for the win, so that was good. Nick, touch on Gloucester. I mean, as Willie said, if anybody is a surprise, if you had to pick one team that's been like the biggest surprise, I would say it's probably Gloucester. They very easily, you would have looked at the early schedule and said, well, St. Mary's loss, Beverly is even, but probably a loss. So they've gone from 1-2, and you never know about when they went down to Falmouth, road game down the Cape. So they're 3-0 when they could have been 1-2, 0-3. I mean, what's going on here?
Yeah, I think, when you talk to the players and you talk to the coach and anyone in town that's a Gloucester football fan, which is a lot of people in Gloucester, there's just a different buzz about the team this year for whatever reason. The games have been packed at home. They've been coming out with a lot of energy right out of the gate. I mean, they jumped on St. Mary's early, and it seemed like they just had them a little rattled. Like St. Mary's kind of felt like, I don't know, I wasn't inside the locker room, but it seems like they felt like they were going to go in and handle this game pretty easily. I mean, they were coming in, like you said, 2-0, a couple blowout wins. It's a good program. They got a good quarterback, some great receivers, and totally two different styles of offense. Gloucester with the ground and pound. I think they only threw the ball 4 times. And St. Mary's likes to go to the air a lot, and that kid can chuck it. But Gloucester's just playing with a lot of confidence right now. They know their roles. A lot of different guys are chipping in. Whatever defense they decide to go with, they seem locked in. They went to the man coverage against St. Mary's against that spread offense, and their defensive backs were on top of things. A couple of pass interference calls, and they got burned once on a long ball, but in the scheme of things, only allowing, I think, less than 120 passing yards. He only had 8 completions. They picked him off a couple times, a lot of deflections. So guys are just running around. They're in their spots. They're playing their roles. And then on offense, they're sticking to the game plan. Like I said, they only passed 4 times. Cam Rotolosi, the quarterback, probably has less than 15 pass attempts on the season. And they got a couple good backs in Thomas Cribbs and Joe Allen. They can get Jalen Severino out in space. He's got speed. And then the line is playing really well too, led by Max Thomas, a heavyweight wrestler there. So they got some pieces and they're feeling good about themselves. And I think they look at it like they're still the underdogs and they're coming out playing with a lot of energy. And yeah, that was a big win. I mean, head coach Dan O'Connor called it the biggest win he's had in 7 years with the program. So it was fun to watch. doing it in all three phases. I should mention even when they punt the ball, I think Jalen Severino, who I mentioned, is punting too and kicking, and he's got a leg. He had like a 60-yard punt. There was another one where there was a low snap and he had to scoop it off the ground, go on the run, and he still got the punt off. So it's plays like that that help them win games too, and they're just getting it done in all three phases right now. So yeah, it's I wouldn't it wouldn't shock me if they're in another battle with Bishop Fenwick this coming Friday.
Not to put the cart before the horse, but we're looking way ahead here. But it would be fun to see two, wing T teams bashing heads on Thanksgiving, two similar mindsets with Gloucester and Danvers, that just rely
Yeah.
on that big beefy line, nothing fancy, just getting after it, strength versus strength. We got a lot of football to play, obviously, between now and then, but the thought of that, the fact that they're both 3-0 is pretty crazy. And
Yeah, I think that'd
Willie,
be a great matchup.
Willie, how about Masconomet? I mean, I don't think any of us are surprised that they're 3-0, but the way that they're doing it has just been remarkably efficient offensively. Their starters have been out in the third quarter, I think, of all three games, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, flying under the radar a little bit, I would say, because of the teams that they've played. Billerica, North Andover, Newburyport. Now this week, Winchester, which is a marquee game. It's one of the best games in the whole state. We're not going to be able to cover it. We're not going to give it a lot of attention, but if you're the Herald, if you're one of these places that claims to cover the state, like there's two potential Super Bowl teams in two different divisions playing each other. Played a great game last year. That's a huge game, but that's what happens. Masco doesn't have a home game until October, so they play all these non-league games, trying to work on their toughness and work on their power ranking. And so, attention-wise, on the podcast and the newspaper, they fly under the radar a little bit, which is probably how they like it, right? They're trying to
Well, I
stay
mean, I
on.
don't put a lot of stock in like state polls because, I mean, come on, who sees everybody? You can watch film and be out at games and whatnot, but you can't really get a true test of like what everybody's like. Having said that, I would think by anyone's metric, excuse me, Masco would have to be now, what, at least a top 20 team in the state, if not top 15, just the way that they played, the cast of characters that they have. Um, I mean, that would be my thought.
Yeah, 15's. I mean, because you got Division One, you got Division Two, 2025, and just based. I mean, they listen. They win this game this week. They're taking another step in that direction, right? I think so many times those things are reputation based, and
Yeah.
it's been quite a long time since Masco's gone deep in the playoffs. So that certainly is part of that situation too. But I think again, like a guy that we haven't talked a ton about is Jack Fabiano, and he's got 10 touchdowns in 3 games. Kind of ho hum, kind of,
Mm.
just almost like Derrick Henry, like just going out there, getting the job done. Not a lot of flash, not a lot of sizzle, but, just putting a hat on a hat and getting the ball in the end zone. And,
Oh, he had what, 157 yards on 9 carries the other day? I
yeah,
mean,
he's on pace for quite a season here. And
yeah, that's a
again,
clip
like
of
just
about what, 16 yards a carry or something?
yeah, I mean they scored in bunches against North Andover. Very short drives, very long production. The defense was on the field a ton, which I would say that's the one thing that for Masco you got to be concerned with a small C. They've given up 22 points in each of the last 2 weeks, which is more than they like. But when you're scoring 40, when you're scoring drives, you're averaging 3, 4 plays, and your defense is out there a lot. And the other team's kind of playing catch up. You're scheming things a little bit differently, like so the hope is that those point totals aren't really a real reflection of how they might have to play if they get into a game where they're not able to get out and run track like that. But I think for Masco, they have the top end talent. I mean, they have a lot of top end talent, whether you're talking about Fabiano or Cal Weidman, who's one of the handful of best receivers on the North Shore. You're talking about Lucas Magnifico, who's, very unique in his physicality and his positioning and his ability to do damage in a variety of positions on the field. And then it just keeps going from there, whether it's Cantalupo or,
Liam
Stefanelli
Ginley,
or
right.
just they're so physical. And, playing Bill Ricka, playing North Andover, playing Winchester, that the idea is to prepare them for the physicality that they're going to need against the Marbleheads and against the Danvers And then when they get into the Division 3 playoffs against teams like Reading and potentially Bill Ricka again and some of these Merrimack Valley Conference teams and South Shore teams. So I
Well,
think,
you mentioned that how they're underrated. I mean, could we put Marblehead in that same category? I mean, hard to use Marblehead and underrated in a North Shore sports talk venue such as this and say that they're underrated, but 3-0, and I think they're just kind of like in the weeds a little bit themselves, nothing super fancy, ton of turnover from last year, but they're finding a way to get it done. And I think a big part of that is the quarterback, Finn Gallup. Started half the season last year, and he's really taken on the full-time role this year.
well, I think for me, they get a little bit more attention because they played Fenwick and that was a great game and that's local. But for me, the biggest quote unquote surprise for them, and I think because I think we kind of knew what Gallup was going to be based on what he flashed in a halftime role last year and based on the summer 7-on-7s. The revelation for them, for me, is Braden Callahan. I think
Yeah,
he has three straight 100-yard games on the ground, and similar to
close against Fenwick,
Swampscott
but yes, yeah,
with
you're right.
Marblehead similar to Swampscott with Marblehead, when they have a running game, right? When they have a bell cow back and they can be balanced, that's when they're super dangerous and almost unbeatable. So if Callahan is going to continue to be able to lighten the box for Gallup and cause problems on the ground for people, that just makes them that much more difficult to defend. And I think that's been just absolutely huge for them.
And he's a big, burly back too, Willie. I mean, I'm trying to think of a comparison that they've had. I mean, certainly not in the talent category of a Brooks Tyrrell, but a big hulking guy who runs hard, drags tacklers with him. Um, Decent speed, finds the holes. Yeah, he's tough. He's very tough. Um, all right, what else you got?
Well, real quick, just I mean, what is I want to hear just very quickly so we can move on to the other sports about St. John's. It seems like they're on pace for 600 points, and I would just like to know. Do they have stilts for Chris Vargas or what? I'm looking at this photo of him standing next to Janelle Aguero, who's, ostensibly going to be in the National Football League, and it looks like Aaron Judge standing next to Jose Altuve. Like, is he 6'7" now? Like, what is going on? Is it the hair outside the helmet that's making him look? I mean, this photo is comedic to me.
Could be. I don't know the photo you're talking about, but yeah, he's a tall boy. I mean, 6'4". Last time I talked to him, I look up to him. I'm 6'2", and I got to look up a little bit. Nick, what are you, 6'4"?
Just about 6'3"
Okay.
and 3/4.
Yeah, so you'd probably be peeking up a tiny bit at him.
I
Yeah,
mean,
they
I
list him
didn't
at
think
six
Aguero
four,
was
and
like Bob Sanders, but I mean, maybe that's what we're looking at. I don't know.
they list Aguero at 5'11", I think,
Okay,
which
so maybe he is Bob Sanders then. I always pictured him as like a 6'1", 6'2" guy. I guess that's just because he played so loud in high school. But
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah, if he's listed at 5'11", then in Georgia, he's probably actually 5'9.5". So that
maybe
makes
Vargas just has better posture too. I don't know. That
it
picture
could
does
be
look,
posture. Yeah, exactly. It could be posture. Yeah, you
you
might be
I
know,
right.
want to say this, by the way, about Vargas. I mean, I think I've seen him play now. It's either 5 or 6 times the last 2 years. And not only was that the best I've seen him play the other day, I mean, he was just on right from the start. Finished with 284, 4 touchdowns,
oof.
really smooth in the pocket. He can throw the ball. You remember when, like, well, maybe you don't so much, Nick, but Willie, you remember when, like, Dan Marino could just rifle the ball and you felt like he could put it through somebody's chest? I feel like he can do that, but he doesn't because he puts touch on the ball and puts it where the receiver's going to be. And that's all great. That's what they want from him. But after the games, it is like, you know, games over at St. John's Prep, especially when they're good, are kind of carnivalesque anyway. There's like 1,000 people on the sidelines, kids with video cameras and people that want to do this and that and da 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 da. And I like being on the sidelines just because I like being close to the action where it is. But it is really like a lot going on. After games, I think Chris is well aware now that people want to talk to him, no matter how he does or the team does or whatnot. But there is a line of fans on the field waiting to like say hi, take their picture with him, shake his hand. And I don't just mean like little kids. Like we used to see that with Janelle, and we've seen that with other kids growing up or whatever. But they were like, adults. They were like teenage girls. They were teenage boys. It's really like crazy to see that like the 16-year-old kid, um, he handles it very, very well. He's very mature with how he handles that pressure. Bill O'Brien from Boston College was there the other day. I know there are other scouts there watching him, and everybody's eyes are on this kid, and he just handles himself with a lot of dignity and maturity that befits someone his age, or I should say that is above and beyond someone his age. And it's kind of funny to look at from the outside and just see this line of people, guy my age waiting to say hi to him, he doesn't know him from hole in the wall. And just wanted to say, hey, great game. And, our good friend and former colleague Mike Grenier was there with his better half, Eileen. And he was like, wow, this kid is great and all. So just something that you notice, when you're there and you pick it up. And it's kind of interesting to see there aren't a lot of 16-year-old athletes that find themselves in that kind of position. And he just handles himself very well, I thought.
Yeah, it's crazy that they can have that many people on the sidelines and it doesn't like the earth doesn't open up and swallow the team. I thought that was like a huge issue at certain places. But we'll move on. Let's talk real quick at the other sports. Let's run around the gamut very quickly. Let's start with boys soccer. Beverly, I guess is leading the whole state in goals,
Yeah,
not
they
just the
are
North
on fire.
Shore.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, they have three guys that just know how to put the ball in the net. I think they have, I want to say it's like 24 goals combined. No, 25 goals, I want to say, as we are talking today. So you have Jackson Merritt, who's a sophomore. You have Connor Sullivan, who's a junior, and then you have senior captain Daniel Silva, who I profiled in the newspaper and online today. 13 goals for him. I want to say 7 assists or five assists. I think he and no 20 points. I think he and Sullivan both have 20 points through the first 7 games. And Silva missed the game, just resting up a quick little nagging injury he had. So 20 points in 6 games, 13 goals. Yeah, they're playing remarkably well. 7-0 and 0. It's really a shame. We've talked about this, I feel like ad nauseum on the podcast, but where do certain schools belong for turn pairings in certain divisions? For Beverly being a Division 1 boys soccer school in the state tournament, I feel like that's a big ask. This is a good team and they could do well, but it's a big ask to have a deep run in the state tournament with the teams that you'd be facing. And they're on the very, very low end of being a Division 1 team, whatever that cutoff is. I feel like if they were a Division 2 team, you might be seriously looking at a potential state champion here. But hey, you know what? If whatever phrase you want to use, if this was that, then this would be that, or whatever. It is what it is. They're playing great so far. They've actually played very well defensively, which doesn't get talked about a lot because of all the scoring. But
33 goals, six allowed so
yeah,
far,
yeah.
7 games.
Yeah, man, I
Not,
guess number one in the state. They got more goals in the prep. They got more goals than all these other teams. I mean, I trust Edgard that he's tracking that. He's not making that up. So I mean,
No,
more goals.
absolutely. And
You,
and
you
and
know,
shout out to Edgar because his teams have just been consistently in the mix since he took
yeah.
over the program, and he really runs a great he does a great job over there.
I would say too that I know like some of the goal scoring totals in the Catholic Conference are down. Because they play a low scoring style. You can win a game 2-0 and it's a blowout or whatever, but. Beverly's not putting a lot of goals on the board against the Sisters of the Poor here, man. They got 4 against Masconomet. What was it, 3 or 4 against a really good Marblehead team that's like probably going to be a top 16, top 12 seed in Division 3. So
Yeah,
they're
3-2
they're
game in that
they're
one, I
doing
think.
it against quality sides, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I think I pointed out today in the piece I wrote that Silver's scoring his goals in big games against big competition. The 4 against Masco, key goal against Marblehead the other day. He seems to rise up to the occasion. And hey, you know what? I mean, I'm not a soccer aficionado. I'm not, I don't know, is it Peter Drury or someone like that that can spot out different things and all. But I have to believe, when you mentioned St. John's and yeah, those are low scoring games. And I mean, St. John's might be the best defensive team in the state. They just lock it down. They got tons of talent there. But I would have to think, Beverly would give them a game. Would they beat them? I don't know. But I would think they would certainly hold their own against them. I mean, they're that strong. And who knows? Could meet up in the playoffs at some point. I mean, I would think that they would both have higher seeds in the Division One draw, but who's to say? I mean,
Well, they have
under,
played St. John's in the past too. I know Masco likes to play St. John's,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I
It's
don't
fun to
see.
speculate.
Yeah, I don't see them on the schedule this year. But Beverly does have some tough Division One matchups that they scheduled. Andover and Acton Boxborough down the stretch. So and they play Marblehead and Masco again. So some good matchups coming up.
Well, so it was only two. I mean, it's similar to the basketball team that way for Beverly, I think. But in 2023, only 2 years ago, as a
Hmm.
25 seed, Beverly made the round of eight. And St. John's lost in the round of 16 that year. So, I mean, Beverly certainly not unfamiliar territory for
Was
Beverly.
that did they lose to Acton Boxborough that year?
Concord Carlisle, different
Concord
hyphen,
Colorado. I knew it
but
was
close
a
enough.
hyphenated school, and that was a good game. I think they put up a goal, and I don't think Concord Carlisle had let up a goal like the whole tournament.
Yeah, Concord won the state title in 2023, and they only gave up 2 goals in the 5 games, and one of them was against
Right.
Beverly. So I think not unfamiliar, good coach team. I don't care what seed they get with the talent they have, and as we've seen in soccer, I think last year was a 20 seed made the state finals in Division One boys. I mean, soccer is the one sport
The
where
31
you know.
seed won it last year in
That's
Division
what it
One.
was. Yeah, I knew it
Yeah.
was something like that. So soccer is
Jeez.
still the one sport where I think you can kind of throw out the seeds a little bit.
I agree with you, Willie. I mean, it is you know, I, for me, this has always been kind of a complaint as like a sports follower. Like, I don't like that. I mean, I guess it's good for the game that there were upsets. I mean, so many of these teams, it's like, oh, three of the top four rated teams are in the Final Four. What a surprise? So in soccer, that is surprising that anybody could make it. I just don't like that the weather can affect the game so much. Like if there's a wicked wind blowing. You can have the win the first half. You can score, let's say, a goal, and then literally pack it in the rest of the game. And the so-called better team is going into the win second half, and you can't score. Like, I don't know. It's just, I'm not thrilled about that. But hey, it is I mean, I guess that's part of what makes the sport different than others.
Yeah, can't get caught on the counter. But any other teams for the boys that we should touch on real quick, or do we move on here to some of the girl stuff?
Let's talk about the ladies. The ladies.
Yeah, move it and groove it.
Well, I would say for girls soccer, I mean the number one story. We've got two unbeaten teams left
Yeah.
off the top of my head, and Marblehead. Got a couple of ties, but holding on to first place. I think they're either 4-0-2 now or 5-0-2. Just a great, well-disciplined, well-balanced soccer team. A lot of seniors and really just kind of has the mojo right now. It's going to be a lot of terrific games. I mean, I ran into one of the referees from the Friday night game against Danvers, and it was a 3-1 win for Marblehead. But he said the quality of the soccer was like watching a college game between those two teams. So really a big time team to watch in Marblehead, and then the other undefeated team is Hamilton Wenham. They haven't lost a regular season match in 3+ years. The unbeaten streak now is up to 42, 43 matches for them. They're really enjoying being able to practice on turf now, which is a big change from practicing on a half-size field last year at Iron Rail, and they managed to go undefeated doing that. So,
And
you
on
think
a
they're gonna be
virtual
even
cow
better.
pasture the year before that.
Right. So you think that, with a regular schedule now, they're going to be even better. So I know they got a big one against Manchester, Nick. That's kind of the only pretty good soccer team up your way, huh? I mean, the Gloucester girls are kind of struggling, but Manchester's off to a pretty good start.
Yeah, they're hanging in there. I think they have the talent to be, to have a little bit of a better record, and obviously the season's still young, but they're hanging in there. I think. Let me see. I got their. They're 2-3-1 right now. They're coming off a couple tough losses to North Reading and Georgetown, but they get some good wins as well. So again, I think that's a team that can definitely turn it around. I know they had some injuries early on in the season too. They're getting some girls back, but they're pretty balanced, and yeah, I do think that their best soccer is ahead of them.
For sure, and we'll have another leaderboard for the readers, the listeners here. We'll have another leaderboard on Thursday. As of this writing, number one scorer in the region for girls soccer is one freshman Jaden Simpson of Beverly. She's off to a tremendous start to her career, and she's forming a great 1-2 punch up top with Olivia Anketel. So Beverly is as dangerous as anybody. I think all those games in the NEC done are going to be great games, whether you're talking Masco, Beverly, Danvers, Marblehead. Anytime any of those four teams match up, it's going to be worth the price of admission. I would strongly encourage everybody to go watch. But while we were talking about Manchester, I think Phil, one of the best field hockey teams in the region, certainly is Manchester Essex. They got Abby Kent, who's like one of the best players in the whole state.
Mm,
But they ran into a little bit of a buzzsaw there against Masco.
they
I think
did.
Masco, it seems not maybe the top end talent that they used to have, but maybe a little bit more depth and maybe makes them the favorite in the NEC.
I mean, they don't have a Maggie Sturgis, if that's what you're referring to, what they had a few years ago when she would score, 36 goals and
Yeah.
no one could stop her. But yeah, they have what I would consider to be a great 1-2 punch in Ava Govan and the junior Mia Marks. Marquez. I should ask her. I think it's Marks, but it could be Marquez. Um, Had a chance to meet her parents last week at the game. Very nice people. You can see where Mia gets it from. And she and Ava work so well together. Ava had two hat tricks in 2 days last weekend, including that aforementioned 5-1 win over Manchester Essex. Mia assisted on all three goals and scored one of her own. I think combined, Willie, they have 18 goals and 31 points in Masco's first 7 games. Masco 6-0-1, the one tie at Gloucester. And I would say that's probably their main competition for the league title. With Beverly in there, but they've lost twice, so they would need to win out and have a lot fall their way. They've split with, we're talking about Beverly now, they've split with Gloucester and they did lose to Masco. So right now, Masco, a little less than halfway through the season, would be in the driver's seat. They went out, the title's theirs. They don't play Gloucester again, I don't believe, until the regular season finale, which is like Friday the 24th, I want to say.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're looking at Olivia Tsoukalis, you're looking at Molly Reagan, you're looking at Savannah Stevens, of course Sabrina Caffarelli in goal. You have Sophie Carson, Genevieve Clapp, all these seniors, Delaney Ogden, who have kind of grown up through the Masconama program. Now they're putting their best foot forward and really showing what they can do. And just to talk to the depth that you mentioned, Willie, yeah, day I saw Manchester had a great scoring chance. I'm not sure if it was Abby Kent or not, but somewhere out front, they had a great chance. Just happened to catch Sabrina Sabrina Caffarelli out of position and goal. And who steps in but another senior, Ella Mossy, makes a great defensive save, denies the goal. Masco comes back downfield, scores right away. So it's like a 2-goal swing in a span of about 45 seconds there. They're playing very, very well. Um, and they know what it's like to win. I think some of these older girls were on the team, or at least in the program, when they went to the state semifinals a few years ago. At least they are certainly familiar with the program and the success that it's had, and they want to go on a run of their own. But Gloucester, I thought that they were maybe a year away from truly contending, but they really are playing well. Nick, I don't know if you've had a chance to see him yet, but
Early on, I saw him first game, but
yeah,
yeah,
Lauren Riley Gove has that team playing really, really well.
she does. As you mentioned, they tied Masco, and then they've won three straight since then. I think they're 4-1-1 on the year, and
Just that one
you know,
loss to Beverly to I think in the second game of the season for them at the opener.
season opener for them, 2-3 loss in that one, and then they come back and they beat them last week 3-0. So
Yeah.
Yeah, they're playing some good field hockey. That's a team that I'm with you, Phil. I thought maybe another year away. They made it into the tournament last year, the D3 playoffs, and they gave Bedford a good game in their first round matchup. I think they lost 3-2 or 4-2 in that one. And you saw you saw them starting to build up. They had a lot of girls coming back this year, and it seems like they're just clicking right now. They're doing what Coach Riley Gove is asking of them, and they got balance. They're good on both sides of the ball. So yeah, I'm hoping to catch them more as the season rolls on. But that's a team that's really starting to come together and play some good field hockey.
We should say too, just real quick, Danvers had struggled early on. They were winless in their first five, but they won back-to-back games. And the second of those gave Jill McGinnity, the head coach, her 200th career win in high school between Fenwick and Danvers. So,
I should mention too, Phil, with Gloucester, Keegan Jewell, their goalie. She's got what, three shutouts so far, and she is closing in on the Gloucester High School shutout record for the field hockey program. I got to track down and ask some people what the mark is. We think it's 41. She's at 38 right now. So she's closing in on that. Obviously, a terrific athlete. She's been great for them in net the past few seasons.
excellent.
Volleyball. Moving on real fast. We've
Yeah,
got
talk about
Marblehead.
Salem. Like they've had a nice little year, huh, Willie? You saw them the other week, last week, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, so Marblehead undefeated leading the conference, but I think, one of the biggest stories is certainly Salem. And, they've had a nice run. Um, Mia Silva, the senior, has broken the school record for assists in her career. Yashi Ventura, the junior captain, is going to break the school record for digs probably this year, certainly next year. And these are records that go back 10, 12 years. Salem hasn't made the tournament in 10, 12 years, and they've got some players that have been 3 and 4 year starters that would really like to do that. Started out the season 3-1, hit a little bit of a skid, beat Gloucester, so that now they're 4-3. Got their first win over Danvers in over 12 years, which, for them is just absolutely huge. I think,
Yeah,
for Salem, and I think, Salem's girls soccer team too, one of the best stories on the North Shore. They've got a bunch of wins here early in the season. Salem hasn't made the state tournament in a girls sport in the statewide format. Not no, now not that they haven't won a game, not that they haven't made a Final Four. They haven't made it, like, period. And so if the volleyball team and the girls soccer team can both do this, get 500 records, get into the tournament, I think that would be such a boost to morale
yeah. What a
for the
boon that
girls
would be
sports
for
over there.
the athletic
It
program.
is absolutely wonderful to see. The volleyball kids again, like, and I think the soccer team's in the similar boat. With the volleyball beating Danvers. I mean, if you can hold your water, right, win a couple 2 games in your run through that NEC done, that's going to set you up really well to get those 9, 10 wins you need to get into the state tournament. Now, Swampscott lost their first match. I'm sorry, Salem lost their first match with Swampscott. That puts Swampscott in the driver's seat in the NEC Lynch. The second game between those two teams, I think, should be a really good game. Probably ends up deciding the NEC Lynch title in volleyball. But
Mhm.
I just super impressed with the jobs that the girls coaches are doing over there. Angie Giancola for the volleyball and Jeanette Leonard for the soccer. I mean, I think, like, just when programs and numbers have been down and you can get them back up and you can get them really excited and start getting some wins under your belt. I mean, I think that's just something that we all root for. And so again, like, if Salem can get one or both of those teams into the state tournament, I think that would just be huge for the whole building and the whole athletic program.
I would say too, Willie, just as a quick note, I know you mentioned Marblehead is undefeated. They're kind of the front runners in the NEC done, but it's been a nice little turnaround season for Beverly. They'd struggled in recent years. I want to say they're 5-3 after their most recent win the other day under first year coach Rory Harmon. They're playing very well. I think their only losses are Marblehead, Masco, and can't remember the other one, but 5-3 to start the year. That's a nice start for Beverly.
Yeah, it was a super interesting win over Fenwick. I don't know if Fenwick was maybe overlooking them or what. I mean, Fenwick was a team that went to the Elite Eight last year, has had very competitive matches with all of the teams in the NEC. Usually takes Masco and Marblehead to 3, 4, 5 sets. So That's a marquee win for the Panthers for sure because I think Fenwick is like sneaky one of the good teams that, similar to Masco football, like Fenwick's volleyball opponents are not teams that we talk about a lot, right? So they tend to kind of fly under the radar a little bit, but they got Caitlin Boyle at the front of the net and
Yeah.
she's, 300 feet tall and they got some really good hitters around her and really good passers. And again, we saw it last year. They went further in the tournament than anybody else. So that's a really, really, it's got to be a huge confidence building win for Beverly. That's really impressive to me.
Hey, Nick, I don't know how much you're keeping an eye on local golf wise. Obviously there's St. John's Prep being St. John's Prep. Masco's having a great year, I notice.
You know what? Just in general, I've noticed a lot of really low scores across the board. The golf is just keeps climbing with these players that are coming up the woodwork. I mean, we've talked about it before. I think golf is as popular as ever for young kids right now. I don't know if whether that has anything to do with COVID. Golf courses being the first thing to kind of open up, and maybe kids trying their hand at it back then when they couldn't do anything else except to get out on a golf course. But I've seen some really low scores. You mentioned Masco; they're off to a sizzling start. The Cape Ann League has some really good teams. I mean, even a team like Rockport in my area
Yeah.
is doing great right now.
I
They
think
headed to
Ipswich is doing pretty well.
Ipswich has been solid. Manchester, Gloucester's having a good year.
Marblehead, Beverly, yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of parity, and a lot of these teams can put up a good amount of points on any given day. I touched upon Rockport real quick. They just set their program record with 170 points at Rockport Golf Club. They had 168 earlier this year. That was another program record. They broke it. One of their kids, Sam Kesterson, a senior, had 3 birdies in 9 holes, which it's pretty tough to do. I don't know that I've ever done that in my career. 9 holes, get 3 birdies. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of low scores, and we're seeing teams get production from the bottom of their lineup just as much as the top of their lineup, which is really good to see. There's a lot of kids coming out for golf. Some of these coaches are probably having a tough time figuring out who to start at the bottom of the lineup. Rotating guys in and out from the JV level. Yeah, it's been fun, and I think all these teams that we mentioned have the chance of doing some good things come state tournament time. St. John's Prep, of course, they set the standard. Those guys they just won another tournament this past weekend, right, Phil?
Cape Cod Invitational, yeah.
Cape Cod Invitational, which they have had a lot of success at over the years. They seem to like that tournament. But yeah, you usually would always see the low scores from the St. John's Prep kids, and now you're starting to see it from a lot of these public schools, which is great.
That's great.
So when the Cape Ann League, Nick, I have noticed the scores are higher.
Yeah.
Does that means that the scores are in fact lower, right? You get more points for a lower score. So like I've seen Essex Tech in particular has had a lot of matches like 150 to 140. I think they had one last week with both teams were in the 160s.
Right.
So for the uninitiated, that means that the kids are shooting like close to par or under par and getting 1 million points, right?
Yeah, so the Cape Ann League uses the quota points system where you get a certain amount of points based on your score on that hole. I think it's like 4 points for a par, six for a birdie, two for a bogey, that kind of thing. So if you're getting pars and birdies, you can, stack your score up pretty quickly. And yeah, like you said, anything over like 140 points is pretty good. If you're getting into the 160s, that's like really good, and anything above that is exceptional. And you're starting to see a lot of high scores like that. Like you said, I think Essex Tech has some losses even when they scored like 150.
Yeah. The scary kid, especially, I think, has had a couple of 40s
Yeah.
in the last week. So
But yeah, at
that's
an individual
good.
level, if you're up over 30, that's really good. 40 is like almost unheard of.
Yeah, I feel like I've been typing in for them and Ipswich. I feel like there's been a lot of 36, 37s, and like I said, I think Scary even had a 40 last week, which is like, whoa.
That's crazy. That's
Again,
probably program record, I would guess. 40 is a lot of points. And you're only playing 9 holes, so you don't have a ton of holes to work with. But yeah, they use the quota points, and then the NEC uses match play. So they get, individual matchups. You win a hole, you get a point, that kind of thing. So those scores are going to look a lot different. And St. John's Prep, I believe, uses match play in most of their matches, if not stroke play. But yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to score it. But I like the quota points system that the Cal uses because then you can have a blow up hole, say a triple bogey, and you say, okay, well, I'll just move on. You make a par on the next one, you get some points back. It's a fair system, I think. But yeah, the scores in general have been definitely higher than years past. They're starting to climb.
Yeah, super interesting, super interesting. So I think we got a little bit on the cross country front, the usual suspects, a lot of winners for us at the Frank Kelly, a lot of
Good
good
weekend.
teams, which is sort of interesting. You get the mix between the individuals and the teams, and so we'll have some contenders in the million divisions that they have for sure. I would say off the top of my head, Hamilton Wenham boys and girls, Marblehead boys and girls. You know,
What do you make of that
Masco
time that
boys.
Mariana O'Connor ran over the weekend?
It's fine. I mean, I don't know. It's fine. I didn't see any records or anything. I didn't really
No, but a
dive too
build
much
up.
into it.
I'm looking at the times and I'm thinking like, okay, we're still September. I know they want to peak late October into November, so it's where it should be, I'm guessing, or where she and her coaches would like it to be at this point in the season.
I don't really track the times myself. It's really kind of first and second. But it was cool that in her race, the second place runner was from Bishop Fenwick, Mariana Kay. You got Marietta, you got Mariana, we got marinara sauce. I don't know, but that I thought was really cool. I think the Fenwick girls have a really good shot, but the great thing is they ran at Rentham, right? So it gives the kids some experience on that
Yeah.
course where the states will be. Of course, the older kids, the O'Connells, the Regans, the Riches. I mean, they've all run it before anyway, but
Don't they have the Cape Ann
no,
League Championships there too, I want to say.
Rentham? No, God, I hope not. I mean, that get on a
I
bus
thought
to
they
go
ran
there.
there last year in the championship.
They may have because there's been some problems with the park rangers at Bradley Palmer. It's a
Yeah.
little nuts. But I would hope that they'd be able to find a course, somewhere closer. I mean, there's something to be said for running the state course at your league meet if you can, from experience wise. But gosh, I mean, the trip from Byfield down to Foxborough for cross
Yeah, it's
country.
like going to Reggie Lewis in the winter, I mean,
It is no, I mean, and the Cal teams do have to do that because they don't, not a lot of the schools have tracks. But
right.
gosh, like I'd be pretty, I wouldn't be psyched about, But put it this way, it's not something we're going to cover if they're running it down in Rentham. That's for darn sure. That's a little nuts to
No,
me,
we'll
but
stick with stage for the NEC. I mean, that's
yeah, it's a great. I mean, yeah, again, like I think Bradley Palmer was awesome, but I think like as a secondary spot, I mean, you can't beat stage four. I mean, it's really good. We've talked
yeah.
about that a few times. It's really great. So, um, maybe we should blind rank the cross country courses. I don't know.
What do you got?
Well, yeah, let's wrap this thing up with some blind rankings. It is not probably going to be the cross country courses. That doesn't seem to be something that would be super exciting for people. No
AC
offense.
Phillips.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But let's do some this is food related. People like the food. So let's go with that. It is September, so we'll do the best tailgate snacks. Now, this could be at the football game at the stadium. This could be I've seen people tailgating for the high school games, the soccer games, the college games, whatever. So, you've just got to come up with whatever your favorite place to tailgate is, and we'll have some snacks here for you.
So it's not necessarily our favorite food, but our favorite tailgate food.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to come up with like cranberry sauce or turkey, it's going to be like a cookout item
That's what
for.
I mean. But if you liked, say, and I'm not saying I do, but if you like tofu burgers, that would not be like your number one tailgate food kind of thing.
I mean, you could grill them. Anything that goes on the grill works, right? I don't know.
Whatever. Okay.
Um,
All right, go ahead.
All
yeah.
right, hit us.
So we'll just start with cheeseburgers, and I mean, if you want to do meat, great. If you want to do veggie, great. But I'm just gonna say burger. That's you do it however you want. Cheese, no cheese. Meat, no meat. It's just a burger of any kind.
Uh, Going between two and three. I'll go three. That's a solid. I mean, I guess you can screw it up if you undercook it, but your basic burger on a little hibachi or a grill or whatnot, smoker. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I like it at two. I'm holding out for maybe something better, but burgers are pretty safe call. Never gonna be displeased if they're firing up the grill with some burgers.
I'm into it. I'm into it. All right. How about a hot dip? A nice hot dip. Not just in the jar there, but something you put on the grill. It could be, tomato sauce and meatballs and cheese. Could be a nice buffalo chicken, but a nice hot deep dip with chips.
Yeah, I'm going five with that.
Oof.
Uh, I'm not a dip guy of any sort. I mean, yeah, do I like meatballs and sauce? Of course I do. Do I like buffalo? Yeah, but when I think of dip, I think of like, you know, just like cheesy, like, yeah, no thanks. Like, nah, I don't like the consistency.
Yeah, I like it. It's not my favorite. I think there are some that I like better than others. I'm gonna put it at four here. Um, Becca's family does this seven-layer dip with cream cheese and chili and burger meat, and it's very good. But it fills you up, and then sometimes you eat too much of the dip, and then you're not ready to eat the rest of the tailgate meal. So I'm gonna throw it at four.
Yeah, I'd say yeah. The chip and the dip and the chili is better when it's cold. That been more of a December tailgate, I would say, but
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah,
good.
chili is awesome. If you're dipping chips in chili, that's great. But
Give me let's see the wings. Any kind of wings.
I kind of
Number
feel
one.
wings are overrated, to be honest with you. Like, I'd much rather have a tender. Why the hell do I want to eat around the bone?
I
Yeah,
love
that's
them.
fair.
I love them. I'm putting them at one. I'm a big wing guy. Give me a buffalo wing with some blue cheese, and I'm set. I don't need anything else.
All right, now see, I'm not touching the blue cheese, so you can have a gallon of that. I mean, I'll eat wings, but to me, it's just like I never saw the big to-do. Like my family, my mother's side of the family is like, bananas for wings, and it's like just buy tenders. And there's no work involved. Just
You're more of a tender guy, huh? I like
way
the
more.
meat better on the regular wings.
I'm gonna go four because I have dip at five.
I mean, okay, we could go boneless. I mean, but that's fine. The chicken, all right,
Right.
four.
So what do I have left? One and two.
One and two, and then Nick's got three and five. So we'll go with a nice vegetable, and you can mix in some other meats. A nice kebab here.
Oh, a
Two.
kebab.
Two. Yep.
Yeah, throw that
Sliced
at three.
grilled pepper, mushroom, onion with steak or chicken. That's a good call right there. Especially if
Yeah.
it's I tend to stay away from the green pepper. It's the boring pepper. You want to give me a red pepper? You want to go crazy and get me an orange pepper? Good stuff there.
Yeah, I like those a lot. I'm gonna put them at three because that's the highest one I got left. I think it's pretty good so far. I might have them tied with burgers, but we'll put them at three. I like the kebabs.
All right, the last one we'll go with the steak tips.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I was hoping for, brother. Number one. Especially if they got a little marinade going. Oof. That is a tailgate must right there. That's as important as bringing a hat on those cold days or yeah. You played that one very well done, Willie. I'm going to give you the golf clap for that one. Nice
Yeah,
job.
I begrudgingly have to put them at five. I love a good steak tip. That's that's tough. That ruined my list. I
Yeah,
could have
you
had
That's
shot for the
okay.
moon way too early.
ah,
You
That's
should
okay.
know. You're kind of a veteran of these things by
I
now.
know, but
That was a rookie
I love
mistake
me
on
some
your part.
wings, and I jumped the gun with the burgers, putting them at two. Steak tip's definitely better than the burgers. What are you gonna
What do
do?
you have at one? Wings?
Yeah,
Oh my God.
I'm a huge wing guy
You
though.
can't beat the wing.
I
Wings
don't.
are good. Wings are fine, you know.
You know,
But you got to
this
mix
is
in some
probably
sweets. We didn't have any sweets. You got to mix in,
Steak
whether it's a
tips to
cookie or a.
wings is like filet mignon to dog food. Okay.
no. Wings are great.
Yes. What are
No,
you
you're in the
crazy?
minority there, I think.
What?
You're in the minority there.
I don't think so. I,
I don't know. I like them both.
we can throw it out to the people if they've listened to this whole podcast. Steak tips or wings? I guarantee you steak tips are above wings. If not, then I'm living on Planet Cuckoo. Like, what the hell? You're not
Now,
Maybe people
this
like
you're not
chicken. I
like
don't know.
eating like a rabbit. with trying to pick bones out of a friggin' piece of chicken leg or
No,
something.
no,
No.
one hand just straight off.
You know what? I'm
I
not.
um I gotta get over. I gotta say this is embarrassing, but I still have not had the steak tips at Champions Pub
Yeah.
Oh,
See,
in
that's what's wrong
PB.
with you right there.
It's sad. I gotta get over there. I've heard they're just incredible.
That would make you forget about wings permanently.
I might have to get wings as the appetizer and then dive into the steak tips.
I mean, you'd be ruining your palate, but that's fine. All right, Willie, read the list again.
I do that. I think people like chicken, Phil. I don't think as
Oh,
many
I love
people
chicken.
think,
I eat chicken 3 times a week, probably.
but
It
I
just,
don't think people get hung up on the bone to boneless. I think this is like just a kind of a little bit of a pet peeve, I would say. I think the
maybe.
voters out there, wouldn't get hung up on that. I mean, because I think if I had my druthers, out in front of people or whatever, yeah, boneless, sure, that's fine. But I wouldn't refuse a wing either. Just because the bones are in there.
I'm not saying I would refuse it. What I'm saying is, if you compare a delicious steak tip to a top tier wing, no contest. Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I disagree. I think they're neck and neck.
You
Well, anyway, Phil's got steak tips one, kebab two, burger three, wings four, dip five. Nick's got wings one, burger two, kebab three, dip four, and steak tips five. So an interesting mix for sure. I think you got to mix in some other things. Hopefully some chips, some sweets. You can't have all meat because there'll be a lot of
no,
methane coming out
gotta have something to
later on.
wash it
But
down with, some
yeah.
Aquafina or something.
For sure, for sure. So hopefully we'll get a little clearer picture of what's going to go on. We'll get some power rankings probably the end of this week or the following week. And, we'll get some clarity on some of these great races. I think we've got some really good conference championship races in a number of our sports, and we'll have our eyes on them. So thanks for watching. Enjoy this one, and we'll talk to you next week.
Yes, the dog has to go out at Casa Stacy, so we are going to wrap this up. So from Nick Genino, Matt Williams, I'm Phil Stacy. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you out at the games.